Hello, and welcome to the Thyroid Warrior podcast. I'm Ebony, and I'm here as your wellness facilitator. I'm going to be sharing my experiences in managing Hashimoto's disease. I really hope that it'll help you on your personal journey. Keep in mind, however, this does not substitute for medical advice. It is only for your information and motivational purposes only. Now, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Today is the finale of this series. And again, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable and allowing me to go deep with you all on these episodes. But I know that you may be thinking, okay, it is not all sunshine and rainbows, girlfriend. Like, what happens when life happens and things go wrong? Like, what am I supposed to do then? And my answer to you is you keep going. Now, here's the problem with that. Some of us are just too good at all right, this didn't go well. I'm just going to keep pushing. But that's not good either. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way because inevitably I broke down, I crashed, and I got sick, like really sick like I haven't seen that in years. But I had to learn how to have a healthy balance. And I have 4 things to talk about with you all on today's episode. And we all know that #life and #life happens. So you may or may not be familiar with Drake's songs In My Feelings. And it took me a minute to understand why all these people were doing this really weird dance one day. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, that kind of applies here. So here's why. When I was talking to my therapist about a situation where I had a misunderstanding with someone and I said it, I was like, I was all in my feelings. And I got really upset and, it didn't matter. Whatever. And she said, no, it's not whatever. You can be in your feelings, quote unquote. And the difference, however, is you need to check in with those feelings. Why are you experiencing those things? Why are you feeling that way? Where is that anger, or where is that sadness, or where is that combativeness coming from? That's what I want you to check in on. Not necessarily saying, hey, I felt some type of way about X, Y, or Z. I'm just going to just say, forget about it. Which kind of leads me to my next point, and that is making sure that your needs are met. And I, again, had to learn this the hard way because for so many years, I did not put myself first. I put everyone else first. I put everyone else's needs ahead of mine. And I didn't think, to be honest, that my needs were really all that important in comparison to what everyone else needed. And I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. And the only person that got hurt in all of that was me. So in the event like this, and it's something that I had to learn the hard way, and that was when you're starting to notice that people either brush you off or they're like, I don't even understand why, for example, eating gluten-free is so important to you. Like, it doesn't really matter anyway. Like, they're just trying to charge you more money for it. And true story, because this happened to me. And I said, well, eating this way is very important to me, because it's how I feel good. It's what my body likes. It's what my body needs. And I'd rather invest up front than have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars of doctor bills later on in my life. I look at my health as an investment. And so I'm going to treat myself like I'm worthy of that. And naturally I get the, whoa, you don't have to be all foo-foo and touchy-feely about it and, passionate. I'm like, no, you have to understand when it took me all this time, all these years to get well and feel better. And when I finally figure out what that perfect mix is for me, it feels like you're just mocking that. For me, I like to have a conversation around the difference. And, it's not necessarily to bash anyone else. Like I genuinely want to know when people say stuff like that to me. I'm like, okay, well, what are your thoughts about it? What's been your experience as it relates to food? Because what I've learned is so many people kind of bash it because they've had bad experiences with it, or they've themselves have been mocked, so they turn around and do the same to someone else. So sometimes people aren't necessarily being rude or not thoughtful on purpose. It's just because they've had some type of experience that may or may not have jaded them. And so for them, when they see you doing something, they're like, well, what makes you think that you're so special? And that conversation can really open up really healthy dialogue. And my pastor said this at church, like, we don't know how to have healthy conflict. And it's always, I'm going to make this person feel bad because I'm feeling miserable about myself. And it's like, no, that's not necessarily what it has to be. I am going to challenge you, not in a negative way, of course, but I'm asking questions to understand, or I'm making a statement so that you can understand why X, Y, and Z is important to me. Now, on the flip side of that, you may or may not lose friends. You also may go through a very difficult period in your life, and we're all listening in to this podcast episode, and what's the topic? Hashimoto's disease, thyroid conditions, hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, Graves' disease. It's a lot to deal with an autoimmune disease and or a thyroid condition because your body is constantly attacking you. And when you already have something like that going on and then life happens, it literally can feel like someone took your head and dumped you in the water and they won't let you come up for air. And raise your hand if sometimes you feel like that. If you're driving, don't do that because that's not safe. But, it's hard and it's challenging. And what I've learned throughout this process is I learned what the definition of a friend was. That was the first lesson there. But then I had to be okay with the fact that my circle of friends got smaller. But at the same time, I realized the value in that because guess what? I get to interact with you guys all the time and you're my friends. And it's such a wonderful thing when you realize that you can connect with other people that are like you and that get it. And that makes me so excited that I can barely contain myself. So even though my circle got smaller, it's kind of like addition via subtraction. And my relationships are so much more rich now. And it's reciprocity there. And that's something that I didn't always have with all of my friendships. And I haven't really lived life long enough to say all these years and 10s of 20s of years. I haven't. However, in the time that I have been here, I'm noticing how much more fruitful my relationships are. And I'm so grateful. While I'm not happy that the situation happened, I am happy that I'm gaining so many more amazing people that are coming into my life. So my advice to you on that is to go deep with those friends. And as I always say, you can always email me at info@ebonycolina.com, or I hang out on Instagram a lot at Ebony Colina, all one word. I'm also on Facebook at Total Metamorphosis with Ebony Colina. So those are ways that we can always hang out. I'm always there. Feel free to chat me up because I love talking to you guys. And the fourth thing, which is really important to me that I did not like doing at all, but that's smile. Smiling is so wonderful. It is so necessary and we don't do it enough. And I've realized that once I started to smile, it was weird. It was almost like I became nicer. And I'm not even saying that like I'm a terrible person or anything, but it started to bring me joy just to smile and be nice to someone and say, hello, how are you? And I didn't expect to get that from just the act of smiling. But from point 3 of talking about, developing friends, I've also been able to meet some amazing people just because I smiled at them and said hello and started a conversation. So it's the weird things like that. And it's not even really weird, but it's just like, look at how that worked out. So I really want you guys to touch base with yourself when you're getting upset about something. Check in with yourself. Why are you getting upset? Did you have a bad day? Was there already something going on? That happened to me today at work. I was fine bringing up an issue on a call, and then someone was like, actually, you're not paying attention. And I'd had to politely say, no, I'm paying attention. That's something that my team owns. And yes, I have a problem with A, the fact that you're correcting me because you're in fact not paying attention. But B, be nice. It's so easy to be nice. But when I went to communicate what happened with my boss, I was riled up, and I haven't been upset like that in a very long time, which is why I was really confused about it. And I constantly felt myself just checking myself. And it's funny because as I was talking to my manager, I'm like, yes, I'm upset about this, but here are all the reasons why I'm really upset. What I'm talking to you about, I'm not upset about, because I know this person probably didn't know this. They probably didn't understand that. They probably just don't know the process. This person didn't tell them what to do. They didn't go over the protocols. Yes, the lead should have known better, but you can't expect them. Like, I'm literally saying this to her, and she's just looking at me like, Ebony, you're like, on step 10, I need you to be at like a 5. And she didn't even have to say that. Like, I naturally processed through that myself. And, I went for a walk. I calmed myself down. And I touched base with myself. I figured out like, okay, why is this upsetting you so much? And I want you to do the same. I want you to start processing through that. And trust me, it's ugly at first. It took a minute for me to get to a point where I am now, where when I get upset about something and then I return to normal, it used to take a little while, I'm not gonna lie. And I would just get quiet because I was trying to do that processing internally. But I realized that I also had to start doing it externally, whether I was walking it out and kind of talking through it with myself, or journaling or writing it down, or talking to someone else about something completely different that had nothing to do with that situation. And that helped me to process like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have did that, or maybe I should have approached that a different way. But all of that, even though it feels like it took forever, it only took 10 minutes. That's it. So days versus 10 minutes. Y'all, I've come a long way. And then the second thing is really making sure that your needs are met. And what I really want to drive home with this is you don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to invite someone to give their opinion on your life. They don't deserve that invitation, because especially if they haven't been adding value to your life, you just don't need to welcome them in. And I know it's very complicated when it comes to family and loved ones. So I have learned how to be very tactful in that way. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not speaking unless spoken to, because that's the best way to go. The third thing is just don't be afraid if your friend circle gets smaller. And I really want you to identify what a friend is to you. Write down your definition of a friend, and I want you to start evaluating that, because if those people aren't meeting that criteria, and I don't want you to get so consumed with what you're writing down, but I want to challenge you to think about it, because I fortunately had 7 hours in the car with my friend Kristen to talk about all of this, but you might not have that luxury. And like I said, if you ever want to talk to me about it, we can always discuss it either at info@ebonycolina.com, or you can message me at ebonycolina, one word, on Instagram. And lastly, smile, because you never know what that one smile can do for you or someone else. So with that, friends, I really want you to take care. I want you to be whole, and I want you to be well, because you deserve it. Take care again. Okay, thyroid warriors, get out there and take things one step at a time. Remember, be great, reflect on your triumphs, and as always, be well. Take care.